Hey, everybody. This is Bobby Fischer again. I uh, am reflecting on the STNA survey, and I would like to, if I could, ask for your forgiveness on a few items. Number one, the lateness of this submission. I needed to do a little bit of additional reflection because I don't currently work at a school. My taking these courses is a career change. I work at an Amazon facility right now, so a lot of the questions, in fact, most of them didn't apply to me. So I needed to draw on some previous experience. I worked for almost a decade in education technology. I worked for a company in Pittsburgh called Carnegie Learning. Now, my time there was a little while back. It was 2014 to 2020. So tech back then was a little bit different, but it's interesting to draw on experience from back then and apply it to what we're seeing today. So the bulk of my responses are really going to be going through this survey, and I've earmarked some items that I have some stories about, some personal experience about, and a lot of insight about as well. And at the end, I'm going to talk briefly about a tech model that I have found through some research, the SAMR model, SAMR. And I'm going to relate it a little bit to my field experience, which was at Newcastle area school district last semester. But in getting with the survey, there were a few things that jumped off the page at me, and one made me think of this story that I think I'll carry with me forever. On the first page, number two, it talks about the vision for technology has been effectively communicated to the community. So I've seen instances where that has happened, and it goes really well. And a lot of my reflections here are just going to be, what I've seen work. So it works very well when it's communicated to the community, but I've seen it work the other way in a catastrophic fashion. The software that I worked with way back then, it was called Mathia, and I think Mathia is probably still around. But way back, it ran on an outdated old script called Java. And Java was going through some issues at the time, and it caused the software to take an hour to load. And it eventually got out into the community that this software that they had spent all this money on wasn't working at all. And we're going on, I think, well into a month of this happening. So I'm getting calls from this district. And by the way, it's in New Jersey, and they don't mince words. That there's just like hell is breaking loose. And they couldn't afford PD, but they were getting it from both ends. They were getting it from their teachers. They were getting it from board meetings. So they couldn't afford PD. So guess who had to go out? The sales rep. So I went to High Point, New Jersey, and had a room of teachers basically yell at me for about 3 hours. And we worked through some solutions and some workarounds. But that community piece is very important. Like I said, to make sure it's communicated the right way, but to make sure that if there are issues, that the damage control is done in a way that benefits everybody. So